Hi, I'm Shane with theI. Today you're going to be taking a look at, I'm going to walk through how I installed the Bulldog 3,500 pound ATV winch on our 2016 Kawasaki Teryx4 800 side-by-side. A lot of reasons to add a winch to your side-by-side or four-wheeler is going to serve a lot of purposes. Maybe you're going to use it for yard work. Maybe you're wanting to pull your friends out of a ditch. Maybe you got to pull yourself out of a ditch while you're off-roading. We're going to have this guy here. This allows you to plug in and stand to the outside, as I mentioned, and run the winch from outside the vehicle to make it a little bit easier to see what you're doing. This is also going to come with a plug and some wires that are going to hook up there. I mounted mine inside the glove box because typically this is where you're going to store this plug would be in the box. To plug it in, all you do is line up pegs inside. You'll notice it's going to have one section there. It's going to line up right on the plug. That way you can only be plugged in one way. It can allow you to stand 20 feet away from whatever job you're doing to make sure you're safe. This is going to be a 3,500 pound winch. It's going to give us 50 foot of galvanized steel cable. It's going to give us a galvanized hook with a lock. Allows us to hook on and stay hooked on. It's also going to give us a nylon hand saver, and what that is it allows us to hold on to our winch rather than grabbing onto the cable after use, so we don't want to take a chance of hurting our hands. It's also going to have a free spooling setting. So right here on this knob, if we turn it back, that allows us to save the motor, and we can pull this cable out, hook it up to whatever we're hooking up to, whether we're hooking it around a tree or to another ATV while we're off-roading. It allows us to pull it out, we lock it back in place, and we can pull them in or pull up or whatever we need to do with it. The winch is going to come with the fair lead. This is a 4-roller fair lead. We're going to have 2 rollers, one on top and bottom. That allows you to hook up whether you're pulling up like this or pulling down. And then you're going to have 2 rollers on each side, so you can pull off to the side. This is going to reduce the friction on the cable itself and help it last a lot longer. The winch is going to require 12-volt power. It's going to hook directly to your battery. Now, it's going to come with all the necessary wiring. One thing I will recommend, if you're putting it on a side-by-side like this, I would recommend picking up a rocker switch. The rocker switch that comes with it is meant for an ATV and has a handlebar bracket that hooks around the handlebars. With the side-by-sides like this, the bars are not big enough for that. I'm sorry, the bars are too big for that little bracket to fit around. You pick up a rocker switch, you can take the switch that comes with it, pull the wires off it, and just plug it right into the rocker switch, and you can mount the rocker switch right in the dash, which we did, and I'm going to show you here in just a little bit. Requires a custom bracket, which can be found here at eTrailer.com. It's going to be a black powder coated steel, and it's going to fit the 3,500 pound Bulldog winch perfectly. It's going to have all the holes that line up. It's going to come with the hardware to mount it to our ATV. It's a good idea to, when you get this, to mount your winch onto this bracket before you slide it into place, because the winch is not going to fit in sideways here, and it's not going to fit in here. It's a little bit too big. So mount it on your bracket first, slide the whole assembly in. Might be a good idea to go ahead and put your fair lead on also. When putting on your fair lead, pull this through and then bolt it in place. Once you mount your winch onto your mounting plate, before you put it onto the ATV, there's this plate right here. It's going to have 2 bolts on this side, 2 bolts on the other. You need to pull this off and flip it over so that the open end of it is at the top. I know it's kind of hard to see now. You'll notice right about there, you can see where it's open. It kind of has a foot on each side. This bracket needs to be flipped over so that open end is at the top. You can see how our winch kind of goes up underneath it here, up underneath our radiator cover. Underneath the hood, you need to find a place to mount the contactor. You can say I mounted it right on the rail. I'd use some self-tapping screws. You're going to have 4 cables that come in your kit. 2 of them are going to be red, 2 of them are going to be black. So on your winch, you're going to have a red rubber ring and a white rubber ring. Red to red, black to white. Rod them up to your contactor, hook them up to the black and red post on the contactor. This is going to be a red and black cable coming from my contactor to my battery. You want to make sure you use the rubber boots. Black contactor, or black wire, red wire on my contactor. I just ran them down, right down through here, because my battery sits right down underneath. Now before running any of your other wires, you need to determine where you're going to mount your switch. On our dash, and on most side-by-side dashes like this, you're going to have some open slots for different switches. This is going to be our rocker switch. This is replacing the one that comes in the kit. Again, you can find it here at eTR.com. Pop this center section off, and all we did is we cut the wires off of the back of the switch that came in it, added some spade connectors, plugged it right into the back of the switch. We cut out our hole in our dash and slid the switch in place. Now, the way we have it hooked up, it's only going to work with the keys in the on position. That way it's not draining power off the battery unnecessarily. Your 2 switches, your switch inside, and then your plug for your handheld is going to have 3 wires coming off. You're going to have a green wire, a black wire, and a red wire. The one from the switch inside, we just ran it right underneath, popped it right through the dash. Actually, it's hard to see, but it's right behind this panel. Fed them right out the side. The ones on this side, where I put the plug in the glove box, I ran my wires right underneath that fender, tucked them up underneath of here, and they come out right here. You route them over to your contactor. Green wire goes to green wire. Black wire goes to black wire from both. You can see off our contactor we have green and black wire. Plug it into the green and black on your 2 switches. 2 red wires. They need to be hooked to an ignition source when where the winch is only getting power when the key is in the on position. Typically you would hook it up to you can use a fuse tab. This 10 amp fuse right here is the ignition fuse, which was this one. However, putting the fuse tap in, we were not able to keep this closed, so it's not going to protect it very well. So what we did is figured out what wire was coming off of that one. Which is this large brown one, or that smaller blue and brown one. And all I did was splice right into the brown wire, use a heat shrink butt connector, connected my 2 wires, and then my 2 brown wires back together again. That's giving me my ignition source so that my battery doesn't run low and my winch doesn't stay on constantly. Again, I'm Shane with theI. I hope this video has helped you, whether you're still deciding or installing the 3,500-pound Bulldog ATV winch and custom Bulldog mounting bracket for your 2016 Kawasaki Teryx4 800 side-by-side.